The Irish Champions Festival is a festival that Aidan O'Brien targets every year with some of his best horses. Last year he had 5 winners over the course of the weekend, including Auguste Rodin, who won the Irish Champions Stakes, thereby providing the trainer with his 5th winner in a row in the race and his 12th winner in total. Auguste Rodin is once again on track for the Irish Champions Stakes this year, and he's the flag bearer in a strong team that the champion trainer has once again assembled for Irish Champions Festival. So we came along here to Ballydoyle to see how preparations are going. Aidan, thanks so much for having us here to Ballydoyle in advance of the Irish Champions Festival. How excited are you about the team that you've got assembled for the weekend?
Yeah, so obviously looking forward to it, Donn. We think we have nice horses. The horses have been running well lately, but racing is very competitive and that's the way it has to be. But it's an unbelievable weekend for us, really, and everybody in Ireland and all over the world, really. It's the first time that most horses start getting together at all ages over all the different distances, usually on nice ground. So I think everybody watches this weekend, focuses on it big time for the rest of the season going forward, and it's been an incredible initiative really for Irish racing, and I think for racing all over Europe, really.
Yeah, and yourself, like the season you've had so far, you've had I think 12 Group of Grade 1 winners all over the world. How much is your focus on Irish Champions Weekend or the Irish Champions Festival since from early in the season?
It's very, very strong, but obviously you have to get through the stages to get there, and it's not easy to get there because you need very good horses, and you're taking one race at a time with most horses, and some are improving, some are going back, but you're always hoping that you get close to it with a team of horses that you think that you can prepare for the different races, really.
And the Royal Bahrain Irish Champions Stakes itself, it's a race that you've won the last 5 renewals of it. You've won it 12 times in total, I think, and your horses for this season, you've got last year's 1 and 2 and the last 2 winners in Auguste Rodin and Luxembourg.
Yeah, it's very tough race, very hard race to win. It's very competitive. It's always very informative for everything going forward from now. It's a great track, and ground is usually lovely, but it is a tough race, and you don't want to approach it lightly or take it for granted because it's a very hard race to win, really.
And Auguste Rodin won it last year. He was very good last year. How's he been since we saw him last at Ascot?
Yeah, we're very happy with him. The last day he worked lovely with a lot of zest in his work. Came out of work very well, and looking forward to it now with him.
And like he was really good in the race last year. Is it a race that you think suits his style of racing? Yeah,
he's a big high cruiser, usually nice ground. Tempo is usually good and strong, and I think it suits a horse, a good horse. And you can kind of go up to a mile and a half after it, but it's a race that works really well at that time of the year, really. And
given that he won it last year, do you think you have him as well as you had him last year at this time?
We think we do. We think he's progressed. Especially even since his last run, we think he has really went the right way.
And you've got Los Angeles in there as well. He was really good in the Great Voltigeur last time.
Yeah, we went to the Voltigeur with the view that we could come back to this, and that's hopefully so far what's going to happen. He's going to be interesting to see what he does do. The pace will be strong. Whether he'll have enough pace to be able to follow it and make a run at the end, it will be interesting. But we think we're going to learn a lot about him, and he's going to learn a lot about racing as well.
And Auguste Rodin and Luxembourg, they're probably 1.25 mile horses who get 1.5 mile, whereas Los Angeles is probably more a 1.5 mile horses.
Yeah, we think so. We felt that he didn't need to go further, but he does get 1.5 mile very well. And he's kind of looks like 1.5 mile horse that could get 1.6 mile, where Luxembourg and Augustus are kind of 1.25 mile horses that just get 1.5 mile, if you know what I mean.
And then I remember chatting to you around this time last year before the Irish St. Leger, and you were just delighted to have Kyprios back. He ran a massive race in the Leger last year, and he's won his 4 races this year and on track again for the Leger.
Yeah, absolutely. That was it exactly last year. We were just so delighted to have him back, really. And we felt if we got through last year and got through the winter, we'd a chance this year. Everybody did an awful lot of work with him, and they're the ones who made it happen. That worked with him every day, got him through the winter, and he obviously came back to what he looked to be at his best before that. So it's incredible, really.
And you always had utmost faith in him. You always, I just had a sense last year that you always felt like he could do something like he's done this year already.
Yeah, we felt last year that like even he ran very big races, the 2 races that he ran, and it didn't really work out for him either day. But really, we were just concentrating and getting him back, and hopefully having him in a groove this year that we could push on with him, and that's exactly what happened, really.
Yeah, like, and I suppose he missed that season, but he's making up for last time. Ascot and Goodwood as well, and now on to Curragh again.
Exactly. Like what you said, he missed the season, but he had the 2 runs last season. All those races, kind of, he's very competitive in them. They suit him well. It gives him a chance to warm up and warm into the race, and he's a great mind. He really looks after himself, and he's able to quicken when you really want him. So he's a very unusual horse, really.
And for a horse who stays 2.5 miles, he still has pace enough for 1.6 miles.
He has, yeah, and I think you could go all the way back to 1.25 miles with him if you had to. I'd have no doubt that he's a group horse over 1.25 miles, and for a horse that gets 2.5 is very rare, very rare, very unusual. And obviously the Irish Ledger is perfect for him. Older horse race, 1.6 miles at the Curragh. It's lovely, really.
Yeah. Your juvenile fillies, you seem to have a particularly talented bunch this year. Bedtime Story, like what she did at Royal Ascot, was phenomenal, and then to go on and win the Silver Flash, and then on to the Debutante Stakes as well after that.
Yeah, absolutely. When she won first time in Leopardstown, we were delighted with her, and then obviously what she did in the Chesham was unbelievable, really. She's a big high cruiser, quickens, stays very well. We've been delighted with her 2 runs since. We've been just conscious we didn't want to see a big display like she did in Ascot for her next 2, because they can't maintain those things, really. So we were just very careful just to kind of educate her next few runs and hopefully get her to win without opening her up. So that's what happened the last day. We didn't go that fast early, and she really never got into top gear, but she still came through and won. So hopefully looking forward to the next day with her.
And they're kind of good steps for juvenile fillies, aren't they? Like the Silver Flash of Group 3, and then the Debutante Group 2, and then on to the Moyglare Group 1.
Absolutely, yeah, they're perfect. Exactly. I think the programme is lovely. It leads up into the Moyglare, perfect, and you don't have to be too hard on them in between.
And Lake Victoria, do you think she'll join her in the Moyglare?
Yeah, we think she will. I think that's what the lads are going to do. She'd lovely run in Newmarket the last day. We were delighted with her the first day, and came forward lovely to Newmarket, and Sean rode her the last day, and he was very happy with her. Travelled well. She's for a Franklin filly, she's a lot of speed. She's a filly probably you could go back to 6 if you had to. And she's made like a big strong sprinter, really.
And Fairy Godmother, she's going to Newmarket?
Yes, the plan is to go to the Cheveley Park with her. She's I think 3 or 4 more pieces of work to go. She had a break after Ascot, and no, she's we were over the moon with her in Ascot, what she did, really. And
your juvenile colts, Henri Matisse, again in the Railway Stakes, he got the 6 furlong really well, and then seemed to step up over 7 the last day.
He did, yeah. We always felt that we would stay at 6 for the first couple, thinking that really he wanted to go up to 7. He still won the group race over 6, and obviously when he went up to 7 the last day, he was even more impressive. Quickens very well, relaxes well, and he has that quicken that it's very hard to find in a horse, really. And
do you think he could go beyond 7 furlongs?
I think he will. Like, obviously, you'd imagine he's going to get a mile. You'd imagine next year, but mightn't have to go that far this year.
Yeah, and will he be your only representative then in the horse race?
Well, that's what we're thinking. The horse that ran in York is a possible. We'll just keep him a little bit on the boil for it, and get close to the time and see what the lads want to do. Because we were looking at the Goffs race with him, but he could take into 2. He could go there and go on to the Goffs, and I still think he doesn't get a penalty in the Goffs, so in the Goffs Million, that is. So, but at the moment, it was always very high on the agenda for Henri, really. Yeah, and like the Aidan winner, like he was very good at the Curragh the time before that, and seemed to step forward at York. He was, yeah. He was. Wayne rode him in his maiden. He quickened up very well. We were a little bit worried that York would be too fast for him. It's a 7 furlongs, and kind of you need a kind of a 6.5 furlong horse usually for that race. But he hit the gates very well, and Ryan rode him very forward and positively, but won very easy. I don't think Ryan even picked a stick up on him, you know. So he was very impressive. Yeah, and like, is he an exciting horse then for next year? I think he's Derby favourite now. Yeah, obviously he's by Sea the Stars, so you would imagine he'll have no problem getting middle distance. So it will be interesting. Yeah. And at Leopardstown then, the Matron Stakes, you have Ylang on track for that? Yes, we gave her a break after the Oaks. She was lame after the Oaks. She kind of tweaked her back coming down the hill and took a bit of time to get back. So she was just ready to start in Leopardstown. We felt she needed a run if she was going to come back to Leopardstown, and even though she was only probably 70%, Ryan took his time on her. They went very slow, so she was never going to get into the race then, and he really looked after her, but came out of the race very well. So the plan is to go back there. We'll ride her more forward, but she is a filly that will have no problem stepping up to maybe a mile and a quarter next time if we need to. But very happy with her sense.
And from earlier on when she had her break, have you had an autumn campaign in mind for her?
Yes, we have. We've always had these races in mind for her. Leopardstown could have a look at a mile and a quarter, Arc Weekend, and then maybe Breeders' Cup, fillies and mares or something like that.
Right.
And she's a filly might race on into the winter and into January. So because she's had a nice break in the middle of the year.
Yeah, and the Irish Champions Festival, Aidan, you had 5 winners there last year. Is there any one horse or a race that you're particularly looking forward to this season? Like, we haven't mentioned it, like Diego Velasquez or Bubbling, like they're
they're running Bubbling runs in the fillies race, and Diego runs in the mile race. So it's very competitive, tough races, hard to win them. And obviously all those horses are going there to individual races, and hopefully things go right between now and then. But it's tough, it's competitive, and like obviously the Champion is always a massive race. The 2-year-old races, the Ledger, they're all big races, you know, very stand on your own races, and I think the world watch those races because it sets horses up for the autumn and into the winter, really.
Yeah. And finally, I just want to ask you about City of Troy. Like the performance that he put up in the Dublin International, I know you think an awful lot of him, but did that kind of surpass your expectations, or just kind of meet your expectations?
I know we knew he was in a good place, and we knew he's getting ready to go forward again. And obviously we have our eye on the Classic, and he went forward well without being too aggressive. But when he's getting aggressive now, and I know the next time he's going to go forward big time, and that's why we think the Classic will suit him. So that's why we kind of wanted to give him a day away rather than a race. We had the option of coming to the Irish Champion, but we had to think of the other horses as well, and we had to give them chances. So the plan with him is to go to Southwell and then go to the Classic, which is a very big call for a horse that's never raced on the dirt. He's not going to get on the dirt. He'll canter on a few days before, but it's going to be very interesting. He's building up now, and he's naturally building up and to that stage himself. So we know what he can do. Like when it becomes really tough, real hard, that's when we think we're going to see the best of him. So it's hopefully going to be exciting, and hopefully we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, and like as you said, you have mentioned the Classic from quite a while ago, but was that the performance that he kind of had to put up in order to consolidate that?
Well, yeah, we were happy where he was going into the judgment, and we know if the pace is real hard and real fast what he can do to horses, and I don't think we have seen that yet. But he can absolutely destroy horses when the tempo is very hard and very strong early. Like very few horses or human beings could live at that kind of a race, pace in a race that he's able to go when things work for him. And looking at him in York, Ryan was very good on him. He contained him the first half, which was important, but he's getting to the way now. He's probably getting ready to rock himself, you know, so that's going to be very interesting. It's going to be hopefully very exciting for us all to see what's going to happen, but he has a lot of variables to get over that we can't really prepare him totally for, and just going to hope that he's going to be able to handle him on the day, really. Yeah,
like for a horse to have the talent that he has shown on turf, to also be able to be effective at the highest level on dirt, like that's it'll be a very unusual horse to be able to do that.
Very, very. But that's why Justify were so excited about him. Like Justifies are Galileos, but a lot more class. They have that pure brute rawness, genuineness in them, and that determination, long strides, heads down, and endless stamina. That's what they have as well, you know. So, but like I said, they have more class, and they have the dirt factor in there who Galileo didn't have. So that's why we're all so excited what could happen for the years to come, you know. So and when he came along, we knew he was something different that we didn't have before. So listen, who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be exciting, something to think and dream about.
And what were those attributes that obviously you saw in him early that made you think he could be effective?
Yeah, he was for a horse that was bred the way he was, like he was rocking up with 5 furlong horses there in February, March, which he shouldn't have been able to do, and like he was in behind him with his head stuck into his chest, kind of wanting to push them out of the way. That's a very unusual thing to be doing when he wasn't bred to do it. And I remember, like, we had to really stop ourselves from turning him into an Ascot horse. we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, but he kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And when he went to the Curragh the first day, we were delighted. He won nicely, but we knew what was going to happen. We didn't, like, obviously, we didn't say much about it, but like, he kind of frightened Ryan when he went by the line. He took off, he kind of took on the wall, and it's a very rare thing to happen. So that means there was kind of, he wasn't anywhere near opened up to do that. And then he went to the race in Newmarket the next day, and Ryan said he wouldn't do that again, so he went early in the race so that he would be able to pull him up, and he said he went out over the top of the hill, the same thing again. Then he went to the Dewhurst in soft ground, which he would really not like because his action is so good, and the same thing, you know. So yeah, so listen, he's it's going to be exciting to see what does happen, and who knows, you know, so yeah.
And it's a big call to miss the Irish Champion Stakes with him, and probably the Arc as well, to go straight to the Classic. Like, you're giving up a fair bit to go and do that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and exactly. And we're lucky we have other horses for the race, but like what you said, it is, what do you do? You have to give him every chance of doing what we could never get any horse to do before, and maybe that will be the same again. But if we don't do it, we have to kind of try and use all the experience that we've had, and maybe look under the stones that we didn't look under before, that we would feel maybe cost us failure or defeat, but maybe we didn't have a horse with this amount of ability before.
So it's on to Southwell on what, 20th of September?
I think so, yeah. So we'll go a mile. It's a different surface. Ryan said there's not much kickback off it, but it's the day away. We'll put the pace on, we'll put him in and see what he does, and we'll learn like everybody else, and I'm sure there'll be plenty opinions, positive and negative after it, and we'll try and listen to it all and try weigh it all up and see what we could do or should do, or what way we're going to go after that. But it's going to be exciting either ways.
Yeah, well look, all the best, Aidan with City of Troy, and all the best for the Irish Champions Festival, and thanks so much for all your time this morning.
Pleasure, Don. My pleasure, thank you.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.